a couple who live in California about how God pursued them.
I was working as a creative director at ABF at an advertising agency. Competitive, ruthless, tension, pressure. The purpose was to get there before everybody else and take their money.
Peer pressure was incredible. Have the best cars, be parked up front, went to dinner, go to the right restaurants, go on and on. It was very materialistic. It was the ultimate materialism.
It's a society where nobody's happy with who they are. The president of the company wants to be chairman of the board. The chairman of the board wants to be a head of a conglomerate. Nobody's satisfied. Even the people that have really made it, quote, made it, are in. But that's what you think about. And so I got to go and win this account, then I'm going to win this award, then I'm going to win this and that. It's all about achievement. And achievement, you find out, is pretty hollow.
30 years rejecting anything to do with God. Anybody started the conversation, I'd walk out of the room, arguments with my sister.
Christian song would come up, oh,
We'd push the
get rid of that. That sounds like religion.
So my daughter sent me a book, And God Came Near. We got on the plane in Northern California to go down. In the front
back of the seat,
That's
seat
right.
pocket.
There was a book.
There was a book, and it was left behind.
So when we got on the plane to come back here I had the book, and he had Left Behind. And so we read it on the plane. Well, halfway back over the ocean somewhere, I got to the part about guilt. For some reason, it really struck me. And here I am in the airplane with all these people, just crying, reading this book. So we got back here, and immediately I said, we have to find a church. Don't know where that came from. But the incredible thing was he also was...
I did not want to be left behind.
He didn't want to be left behind.
That was not a good scenario. Someone had told me a long time ago, the CPA, believe it or not, there's no such thing as coincidence. Things happen for a reason. So first the cross, then a book, now the book in the seat pocket. Then we get the message.
That was so funny.
And then we get the message at church, and it's like, it's almost like we're being chased, you know.
I felt like I was being drawn, like a magnet, drawn.
My turning point was when I really realized, that I did not have to take responsibility for running everything. That Jesus was going to take care of me. That I could turn things over to him and not have to worry about it. And that was like somebody taking huge pictures of atlas of the world. That's what it felt like. I never used to ask for help. You can ask Lenora. And she'd try to help me even if I was sick. And I didn't want anybody to help me. I wanted to do it all myself. And that's part of the control thing, but it's also just the feeling that, you're on your own. Nobody else out there to help you. And now I know there's help there. I can ask for it, and I'll even get it. And I heard about my brother-in-law saying, oh, well, we've got to turn your life over. We've got to get it right. Come on, I got stuff to do. I got things I got to push. I got to make money. I got to do this. I got to do that. No, I don't have to. I'm still doing that stuff, but I don't have all those concerns.
I was always a glass half empty person. I was very critical. I always found the problem, the clause in the contract, waiting for the other shoe to drop. And I don't do that at all anymore. In fact, my son keeps saying, well, you have a positive attitude. You have a positive attitude.
It's really reassuring to know that God was after you, that he wanted you to become part of his family and to be closer to him. Boy, you couldn't ask for more than that. When the most important thing is your relationship with God, it's not nails in comparison. It's not as important. Because if everything goes south, business is in the tank, got no money, got nothing, I got Jesus.
I really like the line, it's really assuring to know that God is after you. Really reassuring to know that. In fact, God does pursue us. In fact, he pursues us relentlessly. I was speaking one time, and I'd been assigned the subject to talk about hell. What a wonderful, uplifting, encouraging subject. And somebody came up to me and said, how could God send anybody to hell? And I said, he doesn't. You have to ignore every roadblock God puts in your life. You have to ignore the pursuit of God in your life to choose. It's a choice that you make. And God does pursue us. So let me ask you again, have you ever been pursued like that? Pursued by God? Has there ever been a time in your life where you felt God pursuing you?
Yes.
Anytime you want to tell us something, share with us? Well, I'll tell you about a couple of mine, and then you can decide. I've been pursued. One of them was at this experience. Anybody ever heard of a spontaneous pneumothorax? Where are my doctors? Anybody know what a spontaneous pneumothorax is? It's a collapsed lung. That's what it's called, a spontaneous pneumothorax. And that happened to me in the 11th grade. And I was going to high school in Conway and playing all those sports. And this was during football season. And I went to bed one night, and about 10:30, I had this sharp pain on the left side of my chest and this awful sound that sounded like water pouring out of a big jug with a little small mouth or throat. And I called my mom, and she came down the hall, and before she got to my room, she could hear the sound. And what had happened is there was a small pinhole type size rupture in my lung, and it lets the air escape out of your lung, but it doesn't go outside of your body. It goes into the cavity around your lung. And then when you try to breathe, it won't reabsorb the air, and so the lung's trying to expand in the cavity that's already full of air, and I will just tell you, it is enormously painful. And so I went to the hospital with this spontaneous, I was just laying in bed with this spontaneous pneumothorax, a collapsed lung, and they fixed that by putting inserting a tube or needle into the chest and letting the air out of the chest, and then the lung could expand. But I was in the hospital, I was in 11th grade, and my life was destroyed. You know, I'm going to play football or anything else anymore, and it was just awful. And there was a nightstand by the hospital bed, and there was a Gideon Bible, and I'd gotten away without my Bible because it came, you know, in an emergency. And so I picked it up, and I was just looking for something to read and get some consolation, comfort. And I was already struggling with an issue in my life, and was just, you know, trying to figure out what God was trying to tell me and where He was going to take me. And I opened it to Isaiah 61, and here's what it said. The Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is on me, because the Lord has anointed me to preach good news to the poor. And that was just jumping off the page at me. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives and release from darkness for the prisoners, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor and the day of the vengeance of our God, to comfort all who mourn. And that was God's call in my life at that point. And I mean, it was as clear as if Jesus had stood in the room and said, this is what I want you to do. And boy, I didn't want to do that. My dad was a pastor, and I admired my dad. I just didn't want to go through what he went through. And so, man, and then the chase was on, and I got no relief. I had no relief from that experience until I finally said, okay, Lord, that's what I'll do. And I was 16 years of age when I did that.